Hi guys, hi, this is Ganesh Naik. Thank you very much for joining us on this quick round of interview and discussion with one of my student, Anoush, and he's going to be talking about his journey of clearing the exam. He's been able to clear the exam in May 2022 for FRM Level 1. Okay, he's located in London and he has been able to clear it in the first attempt. So we're going to be talking about his journey, his challenges, and the way of preparation that he followed. So with this, first of all, thank you, Anush. Thank you for joining in and taking out time from your busy schedule. So, and definitely this conversation is going to be very helpful for people, working professionals primarily, that they can learn from your journey of how to prepare for the exam. Now, with this, let us before we go into the actual discussion about the exam, a basic part for the benefit of the audience. When you started preparing for FRM, okay, what was your work experience in terms of years? Okay, what has been your educational background, and also what work you were doing, the role primarily.
Thank you very much. So I have been actually, before I started FRM, I have been working as senior manager in one of the big four accountancy firms. And primarily I'm involved in banking audits, which of course involves the audit of big investment banks and big wholesale and retail banks.
Right.
So prior to starting FRM, my entire experience was in audit, and more experience was in banking audits.
Right.
My existing professional certification was ACA from Pakistan, and of course ACA of England and Wales as well. So these were my
Chartered
two
accountancy from both. Chartered
from
accountancy, right
both,
now.
yeah. Chartered accountancy from both, yeah.
And what was the gap? I mean, when did you complete your ACA and what is, I want to understand the gap in the sense, was it very close to that? So you're in a flow of preparation like that.
It was not. I think I did my ACA in Pakistan in 2010, and
Okay.
I did my England and Wales one in 2018. Again, England
Okay.
and Wales one because it was a conversion one, so it was not a proper, like, I got exemptions and I gave my one exam.
Okay. Okay.
So I was not in the flow of study in any way. It was you can say effectively, yeah, a big gap for me
Okay.
from a study
Okay.
perspective. Yeah.
So now when you decided to go for FRMC, you are coming from slightly auditing background.
Yeah.
So when you thought of giving the exam, what was there in your mind? In the sense, will this exam be easy? What is, you must have done your own research. So what was there?
I think whatever I studied in FRM was something that I did not like. It was very different from a subject perspective from ACA. Because when I did my research, I think the areas around statistics and the things are like derivatives, etc. You do not study in this way in ACA. ACA is more accountancy and auditing focused, tax focused,
Right.
whereas here it's more, understanding the financial products, their markets, valuations, and things like that. So it was very different in terms of the technical knowledge, what you would
Okay.
expect. Uh, but the reason for me to go for FRM was that uh, in my work around banking audit, I thought I needed to know these things because uh, especially, when you're operating in a developed market like London, I think you can see that their financial products are very complex. You come up with different challenges as a part of your experience. Just having this knowledge with you really helps you in forming those judgments that you need. So
Right.
yeah, I think this was, and I compared with CFA. CFA was longer than FRM for me.
So you
So I
chose
thought
FRM to start out.
I chose FRM because
And sorry, when did you started the preparation?
I started in September 2021.
That is the time when you started with me, or
Yeah,
you
started with
went.
you. Yeah.
Okay, because I
Directly
remember
with
we
you.
had a conversation before you joined in, and you
Yeah,
had a lot of queries with respect to how, why, when.
yeah,
So we had the conversation,
yeah,
and after that you decided, no, we'll have to go and we'll go ahead with the exam.
yeah.
And so now, what was the process that you followed? So once you took the admission, so you took my video lectures. Now, once you
Yes,
took
yes.
the admission, did you start immediately, or you said, "के पढ़ेंगे, we'll do it आराम से," like that? What was the attitude?
Yeah, it was a very so I started after that, but I was very slow initially because it was a very long time after which I was properly studying. And for me to be able to, like just sit down for 2 hours or 3 hours
Right.
continuously was a big challenge for me because of I think I had enough distractions. So I started very slow, but I followed the same the Excel planner that you
Study
had there. So
tracker.
I followed that as it was there. So I didn't change that at all throughout. Uh, so initially, when I started in September, I think by I think end of October, I was hardly, you can say, into my 3 weeks, like the third or fourth. There were 3 chapters per week, so I had only done 3 weeks there. But I really
Hmm.
picked up in December, January. In December,
Okay.
January, it was like I think I got my momentum in place.
And
So
then you were studying how much time on a daily basis?
so I was studying around 2 to 3 hours every day.
Okay.
But I was studying, you can say, around 4 days a week, 5 days a week at that stage,
So
uh,
it included weekends also,
including
or
weekend, including weekends.
okay. So
So
4 hours, 5 days a week. Okay.
yeah,
And
and
when did you complete it? So you're watching the video. So what was your flow? I want to understand that. Watching the video and then reading the textbook, or you are reading the textbook, then watching the video?
I was watching the video first and then reading the textbook. Um, because of course textbook, the way your videos run is that they ultimately follow textbook anyway. So you are
Hmm.
in textbook anyway as a part of the lecture. But
Right.
only thing I was doing was going to those lectures, I was highlighting and putting my headings there, like my notes there. But after that, I
Right.
did a proper reading of the book after the lecture. Yeah.
So you created your separate note, or you just wrote it down in the Swagger book itself?
I just noted on this Shweta. I just noted
Okay.
on this Shweta
Okay.
because
Perfect.
you know,
Perfect. Perfect. I mean, it saves time definitely, because to maintain a separate book and write
yeah.
it down, so you'll have two books to prepare. That's also good strategy. But now, when you were watching the video, so did you solve the question bank immediately?
Uh, in some cases, so for book three, I did. For book three, I did. But for book number, like for the remaining books, I had to do at the end because I was just short of time. So what happened was my plan was to actually complete the question banks in February, March, but my office became crazy at that time, and
Okay.
I really had to, I was just struggling to even complete my lectures at that stage.
Okay.
So
So
I
when did
actually
you
had
complete your full watching of the lectures one time?
end of April effectively. End of
Okay.
April I complete, but at that time, by that time, I think I had also completed my question banks for book number
Chapters.
three, and yeah, the question banks have been completed at that time. So,
And you completed for all the four books
all
till
the
the
four
October
books.
end, till the April end.
Yeah, all four.
Okay. So when you reached over there till the April end, what was the major challenge that you faced? Which book was major challenging?
Two, book two.
That's very common. That's very common.
It took ages for me to complete it, if I'm honest with you. Like it was like, oof, I can't even
Primarily
explain
because
how.
you don't come with a background of statistics,
No,
right? So
not at all.
accounting and all.
Only thing I know was average. That's all I knew about statistics until it started.
Okay, okay. So how did you manage that? I mean, you read the book twice, or what was your strategy to tackle book two?
To be honest, I think on book two, I was more reliant on video lectures because
Okay.
the challenging book was like if you read the book, in many chapters you will say they will explain something that takes in your lecture around I think 10 minutes. They will take 3 or 4 pages to explain that.
Hmm.
And then, for example, I can just give you one small example. For example, if you look at this chapter 16, central moments chapter, that was a very long chapter, very long chapter. But if I just go through your lectures, I get all the concepts there within those 2 to 3 hours. So for me, I was able to focus on the right areas of the book. Like,
Okay.
okay, this
Okay.
is the part of the chapter which is important. This is the part where the key message is, or this is the part which is where everything is coming together, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So,
Right. Got it.
but I think in
Okay.
book two, the back end of the book was I read the book properly at that, like regression onwards. But before that, the concepts of mean, median, mode, cutoffs, it's all that stuff. For that, I was more reliant on the video lectures because they were clarifying my concepts. And
Okay.
question bank
Okay.
was very conceptual as well.
Okay. Okay. And then from April end onwards, what were you doing? And when was your exam? What date?
It was 20th of May.
Okay. And in London also you got the full window, because a lot of
Yes.
countries they don't have the full window over there. They have say exam only for 3 days.
I had the full window from 7th to 20th,
Okay.
because I was actually delivering on a project at the end of April, so I couldn't really opt for an earlier window because my plan was to take at least 2 weeks off before the exam. So I took off for 2 weeks in May before the exam, and
Okay.
then I went for it. Yeah.
And you solved the sectional test by any chance, or and the important concept quiz?
Yes, I have saw. I actually I did the question bank twice. The question bank that you had,
Okay.
and then I went into the mock because I had already marked the questions in the question bank that I didn't do well. So I wanted to revise them, and also there were some chapters I knew I was weak in. So
Okay.
I was more focused on getting it, like rather than expanding the things I'm working on, just having a focus on one question bank, my book, and just
Got it.
not expanding it a lot, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
So when you solved the mock papers, you solved my mock papers or CAP sample paper?
I saw one of your mock papers and one of the Kaplan one. The Schweizer, what was the
Schweizer mock.
Schweizer one? Yeah, Schweizer one.
So what was the average score you were getting?
I was getting in the Schweizer one. I got around 57, 58 in my first time. In your ones, I was getting around 50, 55. I think 54, 55 I got.
And you gave properly for 4 hours as an
4 hours.
exam.
I sat down for 4 hours. That's what,
Okay.
like, block everything out, sit down for 4 hours and do it in one go.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. And primarily, when you went for the exam, what happened when you started the exam? You started solving the questions. What happened in the first hour?
I was very slow in the first hour. In the first hour, I don't know if it was me only, but the questions that were given that came in my first hour were very lengthy, long questions. Like I still remember correctly, there was one question on swap, like swap calculation of cross currency swap. That was, I think, third or fourth question, and you know
Okay.
how long it takes to calculate that. So like I don't know if, unlike your whatever, had done only 13 questions in my first hour.
Oh,
And I was in a place where I was like, where I am going with this, like I was just like,
okay.
it was a complete panic. Uh, but I think, but I had, because I was in that student support group as well. So I had heard that towards the back end, they were already getting tough. The exams were getting tougher. You might remember they were like
The
in
last
the
4 days of the exam.
last
Yes.
4 days were
Last three,
very
four
tough.
days.
So So I still remember before the exam, in the exam center, just by the exam center, there was a Costa shop for coffee shop. So I was just sitting there waiting for the center to open, and I was just saying to myself, Anosh, this is going to be a tough one. Go into it and just spend 4 hours properly. This was my simple mantra.
Okay.
So, but in the second hour, suddenly I picked up pace. In second, third hour, I picked up. I think, in the last half an hour, I was on question number, I think 87, 88 in the last half an hour.
Wow.
So I had picked the pace, and because I followed the sequence of the paper. I didn't skip questions. So I was just following the way paper was going in. I knew easy questions will come. I just have to
Hmm.
stay
This is
patient
very
and
important. This is very
yeah,
important because this is what I've seen a lot of students facing. The first 6, 7 questions are tough.
yeah,
Because you enter the exam with some confidence and they break their confidence. I mean, take this question now. And
yeah,
that is going to set the momentum of your entire next 4 hours.
yeah.
So, you were managed to take that setback. Okay, nahi aa raha hai. It's not coming. So, like, let's go and do other. So, if you're able to do it, then definitely your exam will be very good. So,
But
4 hours you were able to do properly.
sorry, yeah.
Within 4 hours, you were able to do things properly. The entire 100 questions properly.
They were around. I was marking those questions which I was not able to answer, so I was flagging them. You can flag them.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I did my first 100 questions. I had completed, like, but there were 10 minutes left for me before I had gone through all
Completed
100,
the entire. Huh.
and I had flagged around 10 to 15 questions of flagged, which I was not too sure of. And I went for a wild guess the last 10 minutes, like 10, 15 minutes. Like I just said,
Okay.
attempt them and see what happens. Because the thing is, like, leaving blank is not an option. At least if you attempt one, you have some chance of,
Right.
and you might click 2 or 3 correct answers then, and they might be the ones that matter for you. So I, at the last 10-15 minutes, I had just went for a wild guess. So uh, but they were, what I noticed was, I don't know if how other colleagues felt, there were some questions which read very easy, but when you start calculating them, you are like, where I'm getting with them, like, and there were some questions which were like, I know this, like there are 4 options, what, like, and there are 2 options which read so similar, and you have to really think hard to really come to the, at least try to come to the right answer. Like I
Right.
still remember that. I can give you an example, like in the in the book number 1, the financial, what we call them,
Disaster.
disasters, yeah, financial disasters. It is something like, if somebody is going to FRM level 1, they will definitely read it at least 2 or twice. Like this is something
Yes.
but even in them, they were so tricky. Like you can clearly see that they were small things they were asking. Like they were saying the fine for this was in billions of dollars, in millions of dollars. Like you just need to know the fine amount to be able to come, or the loss amount alone.
Oh, okay.
And but yeah.
Got it, got it. I mean, they were just working on those few smaller things to make it slightly complicated.
Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. And so when you came out of the exam, what was there in your mind? Any number that I would get 70 right, I'll get 80 right. What was that number?
I was thinking that it was a tough exam because it was the last day. So I think on last day, I think what I was hearing as well, that exams are getting very tough. So I knew I got the toughest anyway. Uh,
Okay,
I was thinking like, I have done enough. I was not thinking 60 plus or 70 plus, not anywhere there. I was thinking I'm definitely above 50, but probably somewhere between same score as I had in mocks, I would say, like
55,
55.
around 55, like that.
Because I know there was some very uh, some question I clearly knew they were right. In some, these where 2 out of 4 options were right. I knew I used my judgment, and in some I had done wild guesses as well. So I didn't think I was like 60, 70 plus, because there were many students in
Got
the
it.
group who were like 60, 70 is easy. But for me, I think I was like, yeah, I was like, I think I almost made it, sort of mindset.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Now, what are the quartiles that you got?
I got 2 in all 4. 2 in all 4.
Second quartile in all the 4 books. Wonderful. Wonderful. So I'll just summarize. So you were afraid of book two. That also you got good. In the exam, like you said, the first half was not easy. Seven question or 17 question like that. And still you were able to get good score primarily because the question selection also mattered. And you kept the positive attitude. That also mattered. Now, somebody who's going for the FRM exam now, if that person is going to ask you 3 tips how to clear an FRM level 1, what would be those 3 tips from your perspective?
I would say, first of all, try to study consistently rather than packing it all up towards the end. Because the more consistently you keep on studying, the more time you get to absorb those concepts.
Right,
Like it's not 60 chapters in total that we have to complete. And there are some, like, a lot of things might be new to many people. So
right.
I think consistency is important. Like
Okay.
there's no way around that. Second thing is question bank. My view is like, rather than jumping across 2 or 3 question banks of 2,500 2,000 questions, stick to one question bank. Do it properly.
Hmm.
Do it properly. Like do it. I If I were there, I would do one question bank twice rather than doing 2 question banks once. Because if
Okay.
you do one question bank twice, what happens is that you are effectively covering 70 to 75% of the concepts that you expect to, and
Got it.
you have gone through that process. So this is second thing. And third thing is, do book 2 at the end.
Okay. Primarily,
Book
you
2
get
is a,
demotivated when you do
yeah,
that primarily. Okay.
it stops you. What it does is like book 3, book 4 comes naturally. You keep on. Book 1 is also, like, very, book 1 is theoretical. You read it. It is just a matter of reading it properly. But book
Got
two
it.
does is it stops you from everything. Like, and the good thing is, if you have, there are a lot of interlinkages of book two with other books as well. Like you will
Yes,
see,
yes.
like
Book four.
there are some concepts in book four that talk to book two.
Hmm.
So if you've done book four, I think there are a lot of things you can relate to, and you can simply open that book four chapter and read it. So
Got it.
so I think probably, yeah, it is. I'm not sure if it's me only, but book two was very tough.
No, everybody, most of them, they face
Yeah,
that challenge in book two. But
yeah.
now, just so from the perspective, also, okay. So now, when the results were out, you must have informed your family, friends. What has been the reaction of people around you?
My family was very happy. Of course, my dad and my mom both were very happy because I think they always say you will clear whatever you attempt, but I told them like I'm not the same old student that you know.
Right, right.
so, so they were very happy. Of course, my brother and sister were very happy as well. My office as well. When I told some of my bosses I was working with, like I've given my exams, I just told them because of course I had to apply for my leaves, and so they were also like I think they were everybody around me knew I will clear, but I was the only one who didn't think I will clear. I think I was finding this sort of situation. I
Okay.
think
And
so.
one final question with respect to now, since you're already in the industry, what do you think, does industry recognizes FRM, or primarily what do you see the scope of FRM for people who are freshers primarily, or people who wish to join into the finance industry?
I think there are two types of areas where FRM is. First of all, FRM is recognized. Like FRM is not some like there are many people who do FRM. Like even in my so from where I got to know about FRM was one of my colleagues who had done FRM.
Oh,
So who
okay.
was
Okay.
so like I only knew about CFA before I started. So I I looked at his LinkedIn profile. He had done FRM. Then from there I picked it up that okay, this is another certification. I researched about it, and then I noted after that I started noticing people with FRM around me. Then you start clicking. I think investment banks definitely. Like in investment banks, there's a lot of scope for FRM. Like they can go into credit risk, operational risk, liquidity risk, risk management roles. There are a lot of them where they can actually be
Okay.
involved. And secondly, of course, wherever there are models involved, like
Mm.
valuation models involved, or there are,
Rating models and all.
ECL models involved, and because wherever modeling is involved, you will have statistics involved, you will have financial products involved, you will have assumptions
Right.
involved, all that stuff. And there is, and to be honest, like in our auditing firms, for example, especially in banking audits or insurance audit, there is modeling involved there.
Right.
So I think this is another area where there is scope. To be honest, like it also depends upon how you really plan your career.
Got it.
Like if you are young, like if you are just at the start of your career, you have done FRM. So FRM is equivalent to many masters abroad as well. Equivalence is
Yes.
not a
Yes.
problem. And then if you apply the right place, like that is very important. Well, like if you
This is
start
very
as an
important. Like the one you said, na, FRM is equivalent to masters. In many countries, it is considered as a master. So I think so a
yeah,
lot of Indian students, they don't realize this.
yes.
That if they get an opportunity to move out also, they might get the benefit right now.
If you look at UK masters, UK, US, Australia, these three masters I have read, Singapore as well, I think. So if it's equivalent to the masters of these countries, you are just getting two
Done.
exams and you
Hmm.
are there. So I think, and to be honest, the content is very industry focused as well. If you go to the
Yes.
content, for example, like I just imagine the bond chapters, they tell you how to read those conventions, how to really understand the different small things that normally you just ignore, you don't even think, but
Think.
they are there
Yes.
for you to read. So, so yeah, I think there's a lot of scope, definitely. I think but again, career is something you have to plan. This is my view.
Hmm.
Like apply the right place, make sure you are getting involved with a big brand, you keep on moving forward, and
Right.
yeah.
You have to be serious about your career. That's what I mean.
Yes.
Utilize getting a certification and using the certification for your career. effectively, that is a very different ball game. You have to
Definitely.
market yourself, tell people that whenever you introduce that, okay, I've done this
Yeah.
certification. That makes a big difference primarily.
Yeah, it does. I always like I've always heard like when you take a decision in your career, this is what I'm telling on based on my experiences as well. When you take a decision about your career, always think that it will stay with you forever. Like you will
Hmm.
not be able to, like there's when you start, this is the first brand you get associated with. Then you use that only once when you move to the next one. And if you so just take those decisions very seriously. Do not just jump to it. Okay,
Okay.
this is my first job I got, I'll go for it. No, no. Just think, just stop and think. What does it mean for you the next 3 years, 5 years? Where will you land? Yeah, I think
Got
short
it.
term and medium term approach is important when you're taking career decisions. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I think so. There's a lot of advice and a lot of this interaction is definitely going to be motivating for
Yeah.
students, and they will understand how people have also cleared the
Yeah.
exam, and they will plan their preparation in that manner. And definitely, the last thing that we talked about the career, this is going to be very important for people who are just now entering into the industry.
Hmm.
So, thank you, Anush. I mean, this entire
Thank you so much.
conversation.
Thanks a lot for all of your support as well. I wouldn't have done it without you,
That's
without those
that's
lectures and all that.
No, but
And
I'm very happy that you've been able to clear the exam because I remember our first conversation properly. You called up, you had so many questions. Yes, same essay. That's I mean I to see people clearing the exam because there is a myth. I feel
yeah.
there is a myth in the market that FRM is very tough. So I am
Hmm.
trying to so whatever activity that I'm doing, anything that on YouTube in my videos, to make sure that whatever pain I faced when I cleared the exam, I
Hmm.
want to make sure that nobody has to go through that because I was sitting on my laptop with my Schweger book, so reading, and then I'm not able to understand something. I have to go and search, go through 10 websites. Then you understand, no, you're not landing anywhere. Mark it, go ahead. So there's so many challenges because there was no classes at that point in time. And so I
You
know
will,
it is tough.
you will remember, like I mentioned in my first call to you, that the reason I went with your courses was because they were detailed enough. They were because I was when I was seeing where I need to get to, I was not able to really find any. Like let me tell you an example. I had an option there, butterfly and those option strategies.
Uh-huh.
Trust me, it was without like just doing googling them, you don't get anywhere. You cannot really understand them. And I still
Okay.
remember that I looked at your videos on quorum where I you have those detailed videos and your option strategies video there. And that was
Mhm.
where I said I will go with your lecture, because the thing was like at time we underestimate the fact that you need to invest time in understanding stuff. You cannot have
Right.
a shortcut to that. And the fact that you have done that already for us, we should be able to,
Pick
you
it up.
know,
Yes.
go through it and use it in a way that we get it over the line. So I think um, there are many other lectures out there, but like I think the benefit with your lectures was that they were very detailed for me, and it just felt like, okay, these 3 hours, just listen them, just go with the flow, and you will get somewhere. That sort of attitude I
Okay.
had in mind when I was going with
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. And
it.
for the audience, I have not told him to say all of this, so don't worry about
No,
it.
no, no, no. It's only coming from me.
And thank you very much. I mean, Anish, and this conversation is going to be a lot of informative to the audience,
Yeah.
to the people who are preparing for the exam. They will be definitely motivated. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks.